Oh man, you guys are so great, so generous with your time. Thank you, thank you.
Do it. I'm so happy to do it.
Yeah.
No,
Anything that
it's
we,
fine.
well, Rex, you go ahead, because Rex can prompt you. Is there anything that you didn't say that you wanted to say? Now will be the time.
I mean, it's an impressive story. There were some parts I could really relate to, the whole self-loathing thing, and how that can really. And I liked how Liz added this towards the end about if we do things for other people, we'll learn to resent them, and you have to do things for yourself. Like Kris, how did you figure out that you didn't like yourself, and what helped you develop like a sense of dignity and self-respect and love? Like, what was that like, or how did you do it?
It was how do I feel? I didn't like myself, man. Looking in the mirror was one of those moments where just Adrian mentioned earlier she didn't know who would be walking through that door on some of those nights, and so because I would be high out of my mind, and so even just being high and looking in the mirror, like getting to the point where I just didn't recognize who I was, or like just didn't like there, yeah, that's where it started a lot. And then, and especially ending up in jail, and then like ending up in Red Barn, it's a hard place where you work. You're not just sitting around at Red Barn, you're working day in and day out. It's very militant. And so like you can lick the ground there because I was a student cleaning the grounds, like sweeping. Seriously. So it's like there's always something to be done and cleaned and cleaned again. And so like just doing that and ending up in a life skills academy where they really have you look at, the decisions you've made in life, it made me realize like, why do I keep doing this for myself? Like, look where I'm at. Like, and then looking in the mirror and realizing, especially after that letter, realizing like, man, yeah, why are you wanting to be sober, Kris? Like, oh, maybe let's look for something where, and that's what started. Sorry if that's kind of like a long-winded answer.
No, that was good. I mean, I can relate to the militant part because I went through military school through my middle and high school years,
Wow.
and I can definitely relate to somebody's always cleaning something.
Yeah.
That's funny. Did you find now? You said this earlier that there's learning to deal with boredom there, but you also said that there's always something to do and you're busy. So, were you busy a lot? Did being busy kind of help you kind of steer clear of doing the wrong things or making bad choices?
Yes and no. So it did keep us so like Red Barn being a safe place and being a work program. There's no like therapists or clinicians or anything there. I guess the only form of therapy, it's called Gestalt therapy or behavior like modification, where the therapy that we did was we sat as a house of 60 men in a big circle twice a week. And what we did was we called each other out on negative behavior. So as we were working, like, yes, the work would keep us out of trouble and in line, but it also exposed our faults or the things that we teetered more towards. If some of the negative behaviors were aggressive, or if it was lazy, entitled, the list goes on of negative behaviors. Because at Red Barn, we don't really address addiction as either a sickness or a mental health issue. We just address it as it's your responsibility, and let's look at whatever the cause is. We don't really care if you like to drink or smoke or do heroin or porn or whatever. We don't care. We look at the behavior. What is the behavior? When things get hard, I run. I want to go numb it. So as we work throughout the workday, scrubbing the cement floors and doing the folding laundry, scrubbing the toilets, cleaning the showers with 60 plus men, it can get pretty dirty. So you're cleaning all those things and doing, emotions rise, especially as those students, they're sober. So they're getting sober time. So they're frustrated and things come out. And so it does keep you out of trouble, but it kind of gets you in trouble too. That's what I meant by yes and no.
Huh.
In that sense.
That's incredible. Adrian, something that's come up in other shows, and I have to say that I've seen from you, and this is how did you maintain that level of commitment? Because really, the foundation of marriage is commitment, and you just you stayed committed like
Yeah.
that.
I
I mean,
yeah.
that That's amazing. How did you stay that committed? I know you kind of had your moments of doubt, but you held fast.
Before she answers,
How
I
did you
do
do
want to
that?
say, Rex, there's been times where I've asked her, I'm like, why didn't you sign those papers? Like, it just blows my mind.
I
I'm like,
did. I just didn't send them to him.
But I was like, what? Like, what? You know, and yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry, you can.
I really think, like I said, one of my character flaws and strengths is loyalty. And so it has gotten me in trouble. But I think, like, I truly, and Kris this will probably embarrass him, but Kris really is cream of the crop. Like, he really is just one of the best guys. Like, my friends all loved him. They're like, you're way cooler now that you have Kris. Like, you're nicer. You're like, not that I was a mean person, but just like, I really do feel like Kris elevated a lot of my people. But he brought out the best in me. He, like, if I ever saw like someone and I was like, oh, they're so rude. He's like, you don't know how their day's been. Like, maybe they just lost their mom, or, you know, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. You know, he is truly good to the core. And I think part of it was like, I don't know if I can ever find somebody as good as Kris in that sense, truly. But I think that's kind of what kept me wanting to make it work, I guess. I think that's kind of where I even had like a little spark of hope, was that Kris just truly is a really good human. And I loved being his friend, and I loved being married to him. Like, for when it was first kind of like when it wasn't occupying our whole lives, I guess, and it wasn't occupying my whole life before I was aware. And it wasn't, you know, an everyday thing for Kris in the early stages. I remember, like, whenever we would talk about it, it was kind of like, it's just like this 10% thing that's really crappy and really not good about our marriage. But then the rest was really so good. So I think a lot of the way that I was able to stay so committed was because of how good Kris is. So that helped a lot. But then I think too, just my nature is very loyal. And if I love someone, I really love them, and it's hard for me to give up on them, which I'm grateful for in this situation.
Yeah.
How long have you been married?
Like a little over 7.5 years. So it will be 8 years the beginning of March.
This is just something I'm always curious of, because for me I felt like I was blindsided. But the first year of marriage was like, what? Who are you? Who am I? Like,
Who am I?
how did a lot of that stuff come out in the first year? Or, I mean, how did you surf and navigate the first year?
It was hard. We grew up so differently. So I think even without addiction stuff,
It was just a blend. It was an adjustment.
Yeah, it was
like
an adjustment.
You're just like, wow, you're combining two worlds. Like, it's, I look at things differently. She does too. She has different habits. I have different habits. You know, the whole spectrum, like whether,
I remember deciding in our first year of marriage that I would never, ever ask somebody ever again, how's married life? Because I'm like, how do you respond to this? It's like, oh, I'm not like strangling this morning, you know, or like, because and I don't. I stuck to that because as much, he's, like I said, he was so kind, but there were just so many things, like religiously, like day-to-day things, how we communicated, like totally different. Like there was a culture. And I grew up around Polynesians. Like, I'm from Hawaii, so the majority of my friends are Polynesian. So I was like, oh, I think I know what I'm getting into. And I did not.
Well, and Rex, Rex, to add, like, I had no idea I snored until I got married.
I didn't know a lot of things about myself until I got married.
I do snore?
Right.
Yes.
So
yes, totally.
an adjustment,
yeah.
I can definitely relate to the other person has these different experiences they're used to, and you're like, whoa, I'm not used to that.
Yes.
They're not used to your thing.
Yes.
And
I think it's hard for everyone, but yeah, we definitely had a fun adjustment. We had some culture differences. Yeah, just everything differences, but we made it through.
Yeah.
I could talk to you guys for another 3 hours, so I'll just hit pause on myself right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really do. Your story is inspiring.
A lot of presents. I mean, I can see all the
Yeah.
presentations, going to the 12-step programs in the church, out of the church.
Yeah.
Gosh. Sky's the limit.
Yeah. I hope Kris I think I hope we can do some good in the recovery community, because I think
Oh, you will. I think sharing what you've been through is going to be very helpful for other people too, and I commend you guys for pulling back the opening the door. That's really cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
bless you.
Yep. That's right. Well, great. Well, you guys have been more than generous with your time. We're sorry to keep you.
Yeah, hope
so
our paths
long.
cross
We're so
again,
happy to
Kris
talk
and
about
Adrian,
it.
in person.
Thanks for joining us today. Hey, do us a favor and take a few minutes to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. When you hit the like button and leave a comment, your feedback helps us improve the show. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and connect with us on Instagram at Stronger Marriage Life and on Facebook at Stronger Marriage. Be sure to share with us what topics you want us to explore or what you loved about today's episode. If you want even more resources to improve your relationship connection, visit our website at strongermarriage.org, where you'll find free workshops, webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producers Rex Polanis and Alexis Alcott and the team at Utah State University. And you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission